Hi everybody, this is Barry once again with a video for the Breck After School Music Program online. It's a pretty intense day. There have been protests over the killing of innocent black people on the streets in America in all major cities over the last weekend, and it's really there's a lot. And we at Art for Progress, we're not a political organization, but we are a social justice oriented organization. And I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about music as a form of protest. So as long as America has existed, and way before America, but music in America as protest is really what I wanted to focus on. As long as America has existed, people have used songs to bring people together, to chant down their political opponents, to express different ideas, to make fun of their opponents. That's actually where Yankee Doodle comes from, is what the British soldiers used to sing to make fun of the colonial soldiers. And that ended up being adopted by the colonial soldiers and then America in general as sort of an American anthem. Sort of, I guess we have a sense of humor about ourselves is what that really means. I guess, anyway. Yeah, so throughout history, there have been protest songs, and especially once broadcasting and recording music became possible, people were able to send ideas out across cultural boundaries to people that they had never met before, to people that were not like themselves. And they were able to express their ideas. They were able to sort of complain about the things that they didn't like in the world. And again, you know, early protest songs go back to slavery and to call and response chants that the slaves used to do. That's sort of spoken of as the foundation of the blues. So blues is part of this folk music. I studied with a woman named Odetta, who is a folk singer up in Harlem, famous in the 1950s, big influence on Bob Dylan. She talked about her motivation for making music was being angry about what she didn't like in the world. So using music as a way to call out injustice goes back, again, to the history of music and history especially of American music. I'm just going to look at my notes for just one second. Oh yeah, so in music, sometimes it's possible to convey ideas to people that might understand a jargon or a metaphor that you're presenting that maybe quote-unquote polite society or record companies or the broadcast companies or whomever might not even get. So it's a way for people to secretly communicate with each other ideas that are unpopular or subversive as well, which it's served a really important role in doing that in this country especially. And this is not just political stuff. It's also suggestive, like stuff about sexuality and about human interactions that people are sort of uncomfortable with or don't like to talk about can be explored in song sometimes. But we're staying on protest for right now. Okay, so going back to the 50s and the 60s, right? There was the folk movement where people started to, it was sort of more of a class issue. It was more the labor class. It was more people who felt there was an uneven distribution of wealth in America and that the robber barons or the industrialists were taking over all of the wealth in America. And there were a lot of protests. People like Woody Guthrie were involved in that. And that actually sort of grew and developed a lot in New York City in the Greenwich Village scene, out of which grew Bob Dylan, who also was a very, very powerful and influential figure in music, was a popular musician, but also was considered a much to his chagrin sometimes, he was considered a political sort of, I don't know, a figure, like a beacon, I guess, that people looked to for sort of advice or for an insight into what was going on. I'm going to post some videos which talk about the history of all this music and specify specific pieces of music. So I may be mentioning certain people. I'm not going to go into the specific songs, though I do have a song that I want to play for you at the end, if I can pull that up. Okay, so then we have blues, and then we have folk, and that goes into rock and roll. Early rock and roll in America, especially during sort of like the Vietnam War era and the hippie movement in the 60s, a lot of that music was very politically charged and was very sort of charged by like utopian ideals of how the world could be. And that's something that I want to get into a little bit later too. Because, look, music spreads ideas from one group to another group that, like I said, wouldn't otherwise have an opportunity to communicate. And it's important for us to call attention to and to point out the injustice that we see and to make people that would otherwise not be aware of things that we see in the world. Everyone, this is how we share ideas. This is the power of music. Also, music has the ability to present ideas. Sometimes we fight against. Sometimes we protest against the things that we don't want to see in the world. And sometimes we have to also protest the injustice that we see of disharmony. And we have to try to create harmony. Harmony is a music word. It means things working together well. And I don't think it's just a metaphor. I think that music can create a vision of what the world can be like. We can present ideas of how we can move forward. We can find points of common ground that we can at least agree on and that we can sort of come to the table with something at least to work with. So I have so much to say about that. I don't want to go on forever and ever, but I wanted to say some things about this because music is a really powerful tool in helping people communicate and in helping people understand one another. And I think we need some understanding amongst one another right now. I have a song that I want to play for you that was written and performed by my friend Dorian Gray Heron, who is the English teacher at Humanities Prep, which is the school where I teach. If you're in the Breck building, you know Humanities Prep. And if you're a prep student, hi. And you may know Dorian. And this is a song that he wrote in response to the death of Eric Garner. Some of us knew some of his family, and that doesn't even matter. I mean, it was a response to the malfeasance of justice that was him being killed by the police, and now it's happened again, and it just keeps happening. So this is a powerful song that I wanted to share with you. It's going to take me a second to pull it up. Just a second. I'm going to come back and play it for you. Okay, here's the song. This is I Can't Breathe by Dorian Gray Heron. I'll run some newsreels too.
Isn't it kind of strange that we can't see eye to eye? We can't see past our own ways. Maybe it's because of the skin that I'm trapped in. That's why you can't hear what I say. I know you say you hear me, but you don't see me. I can't breathe. I know you say you hear me, but you don't see me. I can't breathe. I know you say you hear me, but you don't see me. I can't breathe. 'Cause if you really saw me, you would hurt me. I can't breathe. It's kinda interesting that we're two sides of the same coin. We both want some of the same things. But there's one lesson that we have to learn. You can't have things your own way. I know you say you hear me, but you don't see me. I can't breathe. I know you say you hear me, but you don't see me. I can't breathe. I know you say you hear me, but you don't see me. I can't breathe. 'Cause if you really saw me, you would help me. I can't breathe. Black lives matter. Put your hands up. Black lives matter. Put your hands up. If Black lives matter. Put your hands up. If all lives matter. Put your hands up. say you hear me, but you don't see me. I can't breathe. I know you say you hear me, but you don't see me. I can't breathe. 'Cause if you really saw me, you would help me. I can't breathe. Black lives matter. Put your hands up. Black lives matter. Put your hands up. Black lives matter. Put your hands up. I can't breathe. All lives matter. Come on and stand up. I can't breathe. Black lives matter. Put your hands up. I can't breathe. All lives matter. Just stand up. I can't breathe. Black lives matter. And all lives matter. Stand up. Say, black lives matter. Stand up.
That was I Can't Breathe by Dorian Gray Heron. Thanks, Dorian.